Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Ricardo Bellenzar. Welcome back to Lessons with Ricardo. And today I'm going to cover the most important part of a home lab I've discovered over the last 4 years, and that is installing an overlay network. Let's go and get into it. All right, an overlay network, if you're not familiar, it is exactly as it sounds. It's a network that lays over your existing one. So like your home network you're currently on, you would have a second network, a second interface created by this, and it allows you to communicate actually across your firewall. Now, what are the 3 reasons you want to install this? The 3 problems it solves. One is, say you're a serious home lab like myself, and you have applications you want to be hosted from your home, but also accessible outside of your home. Instead of punching a hole through your router's firewall and exposing everything on the inside, you can eliminate that requirement and create a VPN tunnel using an overlay network. Therefore, no holes in your firewall, and you still get access outside of your local network. Second reason is if you're behind what we call a CG-NAT network, or you are a part of that, and that is typically if you have a wireless service provider like T-Mobile, Verizon during your home internet service, and they would provide you basically a internal IP address and a single public IP address across multiple customers. So it's really hard to navigate without an overlay network at that point if you're trying to expose something internally to the rest of the world. And then the last one is what I come to understand it, and I really enjoy about it, is if you don't want to pay to provide your information to other VPN service providers, you can use an overlay network with exit nodes to create the same flexibility of having multiple IP addresses across the globe in different regions. So those are the 3 reasons I think you should have an overlay network installed. Now that I've gone over that for you, I'm going to talk about the particular one we'll be doing today. Headscale, let me tell you, it's a pretty good solution actually. It is something that is free, open source, and also does not require a massive amount of resources. You can run this on one of the cheapest VPSs you can find online. I run it on my extra small one, which I think is like 1 core, 500 megabytes of RAM. So it really doesn't require a lot to run this. The downside of Headscale is that it is really difficult to secure. But don't worry, that's what my channel is about. I try to keep security in mind. I'm going to show you how I see the best solutions to actually secure your Headscale so that a random person who identifies your IP address cannot connect to your overlay network. So let's go and get into the solutioning right now. All right, so what you have here is the Headscale website, but I do want to pull up on the screen here a diagram because I want to show you what I intend to do. So let's just pull up a couple things here. I'm going to go and put in server. This is going to represent our Headscale. Let's just a random one. I don't know why I'm going to do cluster, but hey, I already picked it. So this is my Headscale. So let's go and do the Headscale here. Now you have your computer. Let's say a client computer. We'll do a laptop. Most people have laptops. So that's you. And then you have another, let's say, application server. And just gonna drop this in here. Oh, I clicked the wrong end. Well, that's really big. Okay. This is gonna be an application server. And then we're also going to have in here, let's see if I can write, application, and then give it an IP address. And then for this is your home machine. And I'm going to give this IP address as well. Let's say this is 101. And then you have your Headscale. All right. So one thing I want to do is I want to make sure you understand that with this layout, we have the application that we want all our network information to traverse, and right now we can easily just connect directly to it. But let's say you're on the go and you are going to another area. Oh, let me drop this on here. And this is, let's say, grandma's house. I don't know why I'm so particular about that. All right, so this is grandma's house. And she, let's just say 86 or 89, 65, 120, 32. She is not going to be able to reach this. Now I'll move my Headscale over, right? So this is not going to work. Is there an X? Yeah, here we go. And this doesn't work, okay? And the reason why is because it's going to need a all right, so the reason why is because it has to go through your firewall, and the firewall doesn't allow anything. We didn't make an entry on that. We don't want to make an entry on it. So what we do is, if see you have a computer at grandma's house, go back to a client computer. This is grandma's house. She has an old computer, okay? Don't laugh at that. All right, so now what we want to do is we would allow Headscale. We would install Headscale and put a client from here to Headscale, and it'll be bi-directional. I don't know, can I change it here? Let's see, two-way. I feel like the arrow's here, but that's not double. How do I do the double? All right, just imagine it's a two-way arrow, okay? And what we have happen is that be a client. This will also be a client. And this would now get a new IP address from Headscale. So Headscale net IP, which would be 140, 121, oh, let's say 10. And then this one would now have an IP address of 145, 150, 12. Okay, so now you can interact with this with no problems. Now you get all the application because now you have a shared IP addressing which can talk to each other. Okay, that's what Headscale allows us to do. The problem is any bad guy, as I stated before, so let's just call it, I'm just going to do a virus, I don't know why, but let's say I like this symbol. This person can also connect. It is going to be great. Check mark. Yes, it's going to go through just fine. Now you have a bad person on your network, and they're going to get an IP address of 145, 155, 12, right? 13. Let's just say that right. Okay, that's going to be a problem. That means now they can talk to all the machines that are part of this network and blah blah blah. I'm going to put a check mark down here. I forgot to put this one works just fine. Okay, because it's the same network. So this is what you're achieving with Headscale. Like I said, the problem is Headscale doesn't have a way of blocking out people that you don't want on your actual network. Where do we get the solution? What's the solution for that? Well, we go into what we have, what we say, reverse proxies. So now we start to include a reverse proxy. Now the beauty of reverse proxies, let me put this, see if I can get it to go here, is that everything would funnel through the reverse proxy. And on the reverse proxy, there are settings that we can use, and I'll show you how that works, to limit on two approaches. One, I can limit the IP addresses that can access my reverse proxy, or two, I can set up a self-signed certificate on the reverse proxy. And that is probably the simplest way and the least restrictive way to make it a secure setup, because the beauty of self-signed certs, or at least certs not purchased or used through some medium like Let's Encrypt or VeriSign, is that they're not a part of the trusted certificate stores for any browser or any operating system. Why is that important? Well, Headscale is running over the WireGuard VPN protocol, and because of that, it really relies heavily on validating certificates. If it can't validate the certificate, it does not establish a successful connection. Now, if you're not a part of the certificate store, you can't be validated, therefore it breaks. It never works. So that's the solution I came up with, which is kind of interesting. You make this secure by actually using a self-signed certificate or create your own certificate authority. And I have a video on that on my channel. You can watch that. And then once you do that, use that self-created certificate, host it on a reverse proxy, which is, I'll run an Nginx. I guess I should put that in here, Nginx RP. I really want to get these arrows moved over. Let's move these. All right, there we go. Now you can see it. So now I have the reverse proxy, and it is going to do all the security part I need. And now this is no longer going to work. Why? Because I'm going to make a firewall rule on the, and I'll drop this down here. Firewall. And so I can drop this. So the firewall is already built in. Apologies, let me just redo this one. Oh, if I can learn how to click running, click. This is the arrow here. All right. So now this firewall says that only, we're just going to make a number because let's say 70, 64, 65, 108, 76 allowed over port. I like using 50,080. Don't ask me why, but that's the firewall rule. And this obviously has the IP address. Oh, I don't know what that was. Of 70, 65, 108, 76. So therefore now, and this no longer has this IP address. This one has 84, 98, 104, 12. Now what ends up happening is we get a check. This one works just fine, and this one now breaks. Boop, boop. All right, so this is our entire layout. This is what's going to end up working the best, and I'm going to walk you through how to install this. So you now have what an overlay network consists of, where it has a Headscale server. Imagine these are clients, and it allows you to connect to whatever node is on the same network. And then on top of that, we now create a pathway through a reverse proxy to create some layer of security where we're going to have a self-hosted, created certificate on there. So it's not a part of any trust store anywhere except for one you create. And then also on top of that, we're going to be creating a firewall rule that blocks any access to the Headscale unless it goes through the reverse proxy. Therefore, even if the IP address is discovered by a or malicious actor, they can't take advantage of that unless they find a weakness in the firewall, obviously. So nothing's perfect, but this itself is probably the best setup I've found so far because I've tried just about everything. One thing you'll notice when we go through the setup of Headscale, there are some limitations in what you can provide as part of the connection itself. And the reason I mentioned that because at one point I thought maybe I could do a basic auth on the reverse proxy, so you have to have a set of credentials to connect to the reverse proxy. Also, I do have my reverse proxy limiting which IP addresses can connect to it, which I mentioned before. You don't have to go that route though, because let's say you want to travel anywhere and connect to your reverse proxy, then that's going to mess that part up because you have to connect to it from a known IP address, then make edits and configuration changes, and then restart it. That's a headache in itself. But if you know if you know that you don't want to, that you have it on, that you're going to, I guess, install clients on a very static location, then you can go the route of limiting the IP address that can connect. I'll show you that method as well. All right, so that being said, there's a lot, but we did cover everything that you need to know about setting up Headscale and making it work for you. Also, a part of this is we'll talk about exit nodes that give you a way of changing your IP address as you surf the web, so you can appear in different regions. That is another part of this process. All right, y'all. Well, I know that I did a lot here, but I did that so you understand what you're getting into and why you're doing it. If you agree with this, if it's something you want to do, follow along. We're going to jump into installing Headscale now. So Headscale is pretty straightforward. We have headscale.net. I'm going to go to setup. And now we're going to go down to official releases. Now there is a container version, but if you go to that page, if you click on this, it will tell you it is not maintained by the developers of Headscale. Therefore, if there are any issues, you cannot request help from them. You have to go to the community that actually manages the container. So totally up to you. Me, I find it easiest just to install Headscale directly without a container. And I'm going to show you right now my setup. So I'm running Proxmox Headscale as a container on Proxmox. And I'm emphasizing that kind of because, we already ran that command. Let me clear the screen. I'm emphasizing that because you'll come to find out is that a client requires to be on a virtual machine or a physical host. Containers cannot create the tunneling that it needs for networking changes it'll be making unless you configure the container, which I'm not privy in understanding how that works. And I just didn't have the time to invest in doing it. But if you know how to do it, please drop a comment, post me a link somewhere. I will follow it and I'll try it out. All right, so that being said, we're going to go ahead and start. I have my container up. I'm going to click over here. Now you can copy and paste this if you like, but it says here you had to create the version and the arch, and I'm like, whatever. I'm going over here to GitHub. I'm going to pull down the package directly. I'm going to get the AMD 64 Deb because I am running Ubuntu. Oh, forgot I have it over here. And we're going to run a very simple command, wget, which comes on Ubuntu's natively. Run that. ls, it did download. I'm now going to do, because I'm running as root in this container, I'm going to do apt install. If you're not running as root, you would simply just put the command sudo right in front of this. That's all you have to do. Tab it out, and voila, we're done. Headscale is now installed. Now, is it ready to work? Absolutely not, but it is installed. Now, it says the order in which you want to do this is like enable, then start, and then configure. Me, I like to get the configurations out the way. So let's go and configure this up. I am going to go vim. I like that. I know a lot of people use nano. Hey, whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy, go for it. Now, here is one thing I want to point out. The server URL, because I will be using the reverse proxy method I showed you a moment ago, the server URL is really just a pointer for when you're registering your Tailscale. I'm not using Headscale's functionality of servicing encrypted HTTPS. I'm actually going to do all that through my reverse proxy, and I'm going to leave everything pretty much HTTP without encryption. So it's doing SSL termination is what they call it, or TLS termination on the reverse proxy. Everything after that is unencrypted. It's in my trusted area at that point, right? So you could choose to do it that way. So for me, I'm going to label it, I'm going to name it as though it is encrypted, HTTPS. Then I'm going to put in here my host name, and I will show you where that lives in just a moment. I'm going to just type it in for you. Now this is all just a demo, so it really doesn't make a difference. All right, so this is going to be what my message says. And another thing is our listening address. And this is the part where Headscale is actually listening and responding. So we want to open up to every interface. So on most computers, you can have multiple network cards. Most of them are virtual or physical, however you have it, right? But if you do a specific interface, you can put that interface in here, which is just the IP address of that interface you put here. If you put all zeros, as I have here, that means any interface can listen for this address. Listen for this port. And my port, as I said before, is 50,080 or 580 is how I say it typically. And now that I've done that, let me just save. I'm not going to quit out of this because I want to show you what my reverse proxy looks like, since that is what's going to be passing the data into the machine we just looked at, the Headscale server. All right, let's go ahead and open up. Now on here, I am running Nginx. We see that if we do an SS command, open this up. You see I'm looking at 443. Nginx is the web service. Nginx is the web server / reverse proxy I'm running everything on. Now that I know that, I'm going to Etsy, Nginx, and then sites. I go straight to enable. Some people do available, sites - available, and then they link it to the soft link to enabled. I just go directly in. My preference. I don't know the reasons why you don't do that, but I'm pretty sure there are reasons. All right. So as I said before, I was doing basic auth. I commented that out just in case you wanted to see what it looked like. Am I smart enough to come up with all this by myself? Absolutely not. Let me tell you where I got this from. I got this whole portion from here. Reverse proxy under Headscale. They give you everything. Whatever you may need. Envoy, ISTIO. I've never heard of that before. Caddy is in here. That's something newer to me. Apache. But Nginx is right here. I literally just copy and paste this entire entry and put that in. It's actually looking at here. The only thing I did add is the IP-based access control. As you can see here, these are stated to be allows. Now, if you're going to go this route and you know your computers are static in the sense that you won't be moving the computers beyond that public IP address or that internal IP address is currently at, then you can make this list very restrictive and list out every single IP address you expect to be connecting to the reverse proxy. You can also do it in a file format, so you can actually create a file and point Nginx to that file. That's something you have to Google. I'm showing the list is built directly into the config file, or configuration for Nginx, at least under this host name. Then I have deny all. So if it's not in my list, everything else is denied. What you see here is an internal IP address. This is the IP address of my Headscale. This is the port number I just showed you I use. And the rest of this, like I said, comes directly out of the tutorial. Beautiful. That should work just fine. You also notice my certificates. These are not signed by Let's Encrypt. These are ones I created myself using OpenSSL. They should work just fine. Go ahead. So I'm just going to save that. Clear. All right. So let's jump back over here. Now we walk through the first portion of this. The only thing left is really talk about the metrics listener. Never even used it before. Don't know what to do with it, but it is there. It's on. Local IP address for the gRPC. Now, suppose that this is remote controlling the Headscale server. Never have a need for that for me. I want to access my Headscale directly when I'm making commands to that, making changes to it. The next big thing is I want to talk about the IP addresses, the ranges, okay, the CIDR notation here. Now, you're looking at here a CIDR notation stating that this is an IPv4. If you look at this closely, it's a /10. When you do the calculation using any CIDR calculator online for your network, this is over 4 million options. You will never run out. No need to change any of this, okay? It also tells you, don't change this because it will cause unexpected issues. When a developer tells you that, listen, okay? Unless you want to fix it, it is open source. You can do it if you want to. I don't have the time for that. So, the next thing I always change is going to be sequential. Is going to go away. That is now bye-bye. I am going to do random. Now, the reason why I choose to do random is just having security in the forefront of my mind. It does not actually make a difference when it comes to a bad guy, but it could slow down a person that is not fully committed to breaking your security. And what I mean by that is they're going to have to run a scan of your network to guess the entire range of nodes on your Headscale, right? And that's if they haven't already broken into the Headscale. They break into the Headscale, they just run the command and list all of them. But let's say they're external and they want to hit it and they broke through the firewall. There's a whole bunch of scenarios, but just in case. Also, I don't know, I guess I like the fun of seeing which IP addresses pop up. Now, this derp server didn't run it. It's a part of doing TLS directly on Headscale, which, once again, not doing. I'm going to use my reverse proxy. Got a database. The last part, Let's Encrypt. If you want to explore and find out how to run it directly, secure the Headscale and run TLS directly on it, be my guest. You can do Let's Encrypt as you see here. Once again, wasn't worth my time and energy since I know how to do the reverse proxy portion. And the last part is the OIDC, which is OpenID Connect. This is if you want to integrate with an existing LDAP of some sort or Active Directory. You can connect using this protocol, and it can source your users you already have, existing users you already have. Why is that important? Well, that's the next step we'll do once we finish out this configuration. You do use a user to establish a connection for each node. So we did complete everything I wanted to complete there. I'm going to pop back over to the tutorial. Let's go back to the setup page. Official releases, go down here. We're going to do the enable command. So let's copy. Okay, it said copied. I'm going to run this so it is enabled. And enable just makes it a service so that every time you restart the machine, Headscale starts up automatically. You don't have to go and look for it and hunt it down. And then we'll check the status. It should be started now. All right, it is started. It says it's listening, and we can double check that by doing SS NTLPU, and you will see right there it is listening for Headscale. Awesome. All right, our Headscale is at least up and running. It is configured. Now, usage is the next place we go. This is where we start to use it. Now, I love the fact that it gives you a very quick tutorial on how to navigate the terminal interface. Now, there are some UIs, some user interfaces you can download and run next to this. I like to always think what happens when crap hits the fan and nothing really works the way you expect. I want to jump right into the tool and use the tool directly. This is part of my mindset. So I don't do the UI stuff. You can if you want to. And obviously, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. So now that you know, if you ever need help, you type help in, it'll give you every option you can actually look for. Now, how to use it, that varies. You have to Google it. But at least you have options here. So I know I need to do the users. So I'm going to go clear Headscale users. Let's see what option we have for help. We have create, and that's what we want to do now. Headscale users create and new tester. All right, it says it was created. Let's go to list as an option. Bam, we're good. We're good. We are now in there. We have a user set up. We have our Headscale configured. We have our reverse proxy configured. We are ready to now jump in and create our very first client. Now, our first client is actually be our exit node. Like I told you before, exit node allows every other client on the network to use it as an exit to the rest of the internet. So now, what do we do for that? So it says next we do a connection. So I'm going to pop open my exit node I have here. And I think the IP address, 44. All right, so 44 is the box I want to connect to. I'm going to use my local host machine to connect to that host. 44. Put my password in. I'm going to go ahead and maximize. Clear. Let's make this a little bigger. Ooh, that's really big. All right. So now, first things first is I want to make sure that this machine, the one I'm on now, the exit node, knows that headscale.bin.com, which is the URL, the host name that the reverse proxy is expecting, knows that that host name connects to the reverse proxy. So I'll make an entry on the host file because this is all internal, right? I'm doing it from my own computers on my own network. I'm not going to be using a public DNS. And because I'm not using public DNS, then I need to make sure I create the DNS entries on my local resolver, also known as stub resolver. So it is right here. 10.19.19.37 equates to headscale.bin.com. All right, so we are good to go. Now we have that. We should be able to do the tailscale. Tailscale command to connect. We'll copy this one. All right, and the URL we already have. HTTPS, because it is secured.bin.com. Bam. Ooh, Tailscale's. I guess I need to install Tailscale first, right? And look, I have the tab right here. Let's go and do Tailscale installation. Why didn't you tell me I didn't do it yet, y'all? Come on, help me out here. All right, so let's go ahead and do my password. Looks like it worked. Let's go over here. Bam. All right, so it is running. I love containers. They are so fast. They get the job done. Man, look at that. And honestly, you wouldn't believe this is running on a very small mini computer I bought, and it's blowing my mind. So, ooh. Oh, okay. Sudo. That's all I gotta do, right? Sudo. And I'm getting nothing. Does anyone remember the reason why I'm getting nothing is a question. Let's go back on the reverse proxy. Okay? Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna show you a quick way to troubleshoot this. We do system CTL and then status tailscale D. It'll give you an error. So it's saying that, ooh, we have a certificate error that's happening. Why is that? Well, and it also has a drop, one drop. I don't know if it's the same thing. I can only see that one time. Let's go over to our reverse proxy. Yeah, this is our reverse proxy here. Let's go back to Headscale. Look at this. I just told you the IP address is 44. Might need to make an entry for that, right? So I'm going to make an entry over here. 44. So that's going to solve one of our problems. I'll also, if you remember at the beginning, because I'm using a certificate that I created myself, there is no trust store for the Tailscale on the freshly created exit node to validate against, right? So if that's the case, guess what? I need to get that certificate trust store. Now, my trust store is called community_hope-chain, and I will be, let me clear my screen. I will be using the reverse proxy since it's already here to host over a Python over a Python HTTP server. I'll show you how to do it in just a moment. I just want to make sure I get the IP address right. Yeah, it is 37. Do Python 3-m. That's a module, and the module I'm using is HTTP server. Okay, and I'm giving a port number. Now, keep in mind, this is HTTP. It's not encrypted. If you're worried about, anyone getting to this machine or your internal home lab, you're really security oriented, which is a good thing. You would use SCP instead. You could use SCP to use an encrypted tunnel between each machine over the SSH protocol to copy the data that way. I just like doing the Python HTTP server. Is faster for me. So I'm going to do get HTTP ://37, and it was 9023, I think, and then community, and I could just copy and paste. What am I doing that for? So I can just make a mistake. I could barely type anyway, so why would I think I'm gonna get that right? So I spelled community wrong already, if you didn't catch it. All right, hit enter. I now have it right here. Now all I'm gonna do is do sudo copy. Now this is how you add a certificate to the trust door on Ubuntu or Debian-based Linux operating systems. We copy it over, so we're going to copy community over to /usr local share and then CA certificates. All right. After that, we do sudo update -ca certificates. I have done this a lot. That's why I memorize these commands. And what you're looking for is this output here. Add it. Now, for every reason, if you don't get added after doing it, if you think it's some kind of glitch, you can do --fresh. And what it's going to do is clear everything and re-add it, which is 147. Still works fine. Okay. Now, I added the IP address so the reverse proxy accepts the initial connection. I also added the validating certificate. This should now work. And if you want to check before you run it, I'll show you a command you can do just to check it. Open SSL S client connect headscale.bin.com and then over 443. Looks like that worked. Let's see. There we go. We got the message we're looking for. It is okay. Now, one problem you'll find though is that whenever you make a change like this to certificates or something like that, you're going to restart Tailscale. So this was used to OpenSSL work just fine. Check out what happens if I do Tailscale. I didn't restart it yet, but let's see. I like showing errors I run into because it's important. No one does this perfectly the first time, right? If I go back and do this status, we're going to still be getting the same certificate error, okay? This is different. You don't see the top part where it said drop like it did before. It's the same error, right? And the reason why it's the same is because Tailscale, like many applications that are running on your box, it grabs all of its parameters at boot up, and if you change anything after that, it doesn't look for those changes. You have to tell it to restart so it gets the changes. So we're going to do restart. Now I'm hoping you all are enjoying my videos because I try to really go in depth. I know they're longer than most videos, but I want you to leave my videos knowing that you know what to expect when things go wrong. You also get a full idea of how to apply the technology instead of like, oh, this is what it can, this is what it does, but what can it do? I know with my journey, I always ask that question like, what am I missing? Or what else can I do with it? That's another question that comes to my head. So I just want to show you all the avenues whenever I do something like this. All right, so now that it restarted, everything's successful. This should now work. You know what I forgot to do? I got a 403 forbidden. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to restart the Nginx after adding the IP address. Just told you these things need the extra help, and I did not think to do it on this one. So clear. So that's why the forbidden is still restricting the IP address because it doesn't know about the change of IP address. So let's do system ctl restart Nginx. Check the status. I'm telling you, this has been a video in the making for a while, and the reason why is every time I do this, I just make some small stupid mistake. All right, so now let's clear this. All right, so we're going to go rerun the command now, and let's see what happens. Well, there you have it. We now have a site to visit to register our first exit node, which, to be honest, is not an exit node yet, and I'll show you the reason why in just a moment. Let's go ahead and cancel this out. I use the browser in text form sometimes if I'm on a server like this. And let's see, unable to connect. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Why is it not registering? You know what? It's kind of late, and I shouldn't have done that. I know what the problem is. On my Headscale, like I told you before, this is the part that Headscale is pushing out to the client trying to request, hey, go back to this URL to register. Since we're pointing towards a reverse proxy that's listed on 443, not 5,000, well, 50,080 or 500 then 80, then hey, I can't put that in the configuration. So now what I have to do, I can fix it very quickly here by just going up, go to links, and then just take this part out. It'll still register. Bam, there we go, we're good. And then once I'm on the Headscale, I will correct the error I had there. I am so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm on Headscale now, clear, and we'll just do, paste this in, do tester. All right, now we're registered. We do Headscale, nodes, list. We now have a online registered to the user tester, and it is the node name of node exit-node-01, and this is my IPv6 if I wanted to use that, but whatever, right? So let's go ahead and fix the issue I had a few moments ago so I don't get on the next one I register. Go to config, YAML, let's go back to the top, and I'm just going to take this part out because we don't want to advertise that. Talking about advertising, actually, I think that happened for a reason. I use that wording that way. Reason why I am talking about advertising, because to set this up as an actual exit node, we're going to have to advertise it as an exit node. And I believe it's under references. Yes, exit node. Now, we're not going to use this statement because this is what you use if you are setting up all at once, okay? Because I've already set up the node, I'm going to have to go use this one. So sudo, all right, this is the one I'm on. Yes, I want to quit, clear. Now I want to do this command without the $sign, advertise exit node. Let's pop back over to the tutorial now that I've done that part. All right, it says use the, all right, y'all, so sorry here. I forgot to point out a very critical point, and if you're following along in the tutorial, you want to get it right before my mistake is known, please pay attention to this part of the documentation right here. So you see that there is a Tailscale documentation where it talks about IP forwarding. Make sure you set this up. If not, you'll have issues getting internet connectivity once you assign the exit node to your Tailscale client. As you go through, pause the video here and follow this first and come back to it. All right, y'all, so let's keep on going. Thanks. Routes command. Let's look at what the routes say now. So on the Headscale routes. Is it route or routes? I think it's route list. All right, cool. We have two entries. Problem is enabled both says false. So now we have to enable it before it can work. So the way we do this is using the command here, routes enable, that is routes with an S actually, not without the S, and then enable -4 and the ID number that you want. So there's only two IDs for me. So we're going to do Headscale routes with an S. It's kind of cool it actually worked before without the S, right? And then R, and then 1, and then 2. Now we list it again. Bam. We have now everything set up to be enabled. Next thing here is on the client. So everything to Headscale is considered a client outside of the Headscale server node itself. So this was confusing me at first, but all this is saying is on any client other than the exit node, we want to use this command after we set it up. So we're still going to go through the original setup of installing Tailscale, setting up the client for Tailscale, then we'll add this one as well. And as you can see here, we're just going to use the name. Now I named mine exit-node-01, so that's what I'll be substituting here once I get to that point. Now what I want to do is I want to show you all two other machines I have running on a different ISP, which means I have a different public IP address for these. And this is to demonstrate how you can make your own VPN service without paying and giving your information to everyone else like Proton VPN. Don't get me wrong, I use these services anyway, but you know, if you don't have the funds and you have $6 a month, you can do your own VPN service with 2 nodes serving as exit nodes plus 1 node running Headscale. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so we got it set up. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like when we use it, the exit node as we intend. Here's my current IPv4 address. Okay, now we're going to do install Headscale. Well, we're going to set up Headscale. So Headscale, I am using Ubuntu to do this. Log in server, https://headscale.bin.com, and I want to do hosts, and well, we'll do a sandbox, it's fine. All right, so there we have. We use the Headscale, the Headscale spin up command. We now have this, and I could have. I forgot to restart the Headscale, but that's fine. We know how to work with this. We're going to take this. We're going to make a small little edit. So cancel links. Paste this in. Remove the port ID here, port number. All right, so now we have this set up. Copy. And let's go back over to Headscale. That is the certificates. So this should be, that's the node. All right, here we go. Headscale, paste it in. And we're going to change the username to tester again. Bam. Sandbox is now registered. We'll go to Headscale, nodes, list. We should have two entries. We have the exit node and we have the sandbox. Now, going back over to our Headscale tutorial, well, guidebook here, I'm going to run the command to have the sandbox use the exit node as its exit to get a new IP address. So let's flip back over. I believe this one. Nope. Has to be this one. All right, cool. Cancel. Clear the screen. Once again, this is my current IP, and then once I set up the Headscale, exit node -01. Reason why it froze, I don't know. Oh, you know what I did forget to do? I forgot to do the exit node again. So, on this one, there's a documentation that we have to do this command on the exit node, or it won't forward traffic. So now, let's try this again. Wrong box either way. I'm going to copy. Let's drop this in. Paste. All right, cool. That took, and I believe we just got to do a quick restart. Yeah, I've done this before in my practice rounds where I forgot to add the IPv4 function, so it actually forwards all traffic. And I just did it again, and that'll be the reason why I'm having issues. Let's see what's back up. All right, we are back up. Now, should not have a problem getting back to the this one. Bam. Okay, now it's working again. IPv4. Checking. We now have a new IP address. So now it is working as expected. Man, I apologize, y'all. It's really late at night. Wasn't feeling well, but I wanted to try to get the video done for you. All right, y'all. So now to install this on a Windows box, Well, I guess I should say to connect Tailscale on a Windows box to our Headscale server. I'm going to start because our configuration uses a internal certificate authority create the certificate that we're hosting on the reverse proxy. I need to get into the Windows box, the chain of certificates used for that signing. So the root CA as well as the intermediate CA. Now, let me show you what happens if you copy the one we use in our Unix box over. I'll go to our desktop. You'll notice we have two different certificates here, and they literally state as two different types as well. The first one here is the certificate I use on Unix. Had no problem at all doing so. But Windows is a little more stringent on their requirements, which is not a bad thing. It requires you to package this a little different, it's in the format of a PK1, a PK pound 1.2, I think, or PK12. If you just Google PK and 12, you'll get the output. You'll get what I'm talking about. Actually, let me just pull it up here. This is what I use to create the PK12. I did this command here. I did export, and I created the name of the file, and then N key. So this was all targeting the intermediate root CA, because that's the one that created the server cert used by the reverse proxy. But I also had attached to it the parent of that, which is the root CA. I threw that into the export as well. With this part here, it says cert file and the CA. So if you run that command, you'll get the same format I have with the PK12 and, well, the P12, I guess. And the reason why this popped up is because I'll show you. If you go over into certificates and we go to manage certificates, manage computer certificates, we hit yes. What you'll notice is that under root certificate authorities, well, trusted root certificates, you now have these two in here. And this is when I import intermediate, but it also pulls in the root certificate, which is part of the cert file portion of the command we use. And if I go into, just try to add a new one here, or import, you'll see where on the next page, it gives you these are the acceptable outputs. Okay, so I did the first one, the PFX or P12, yeah, PKCS. I can't remember that for some reason. So one thing you'll notice is that even if you don't have the correct format, it will find the PIM file that you created, the CRT, whatever, X509 format, which we know is the PEM format that we created originally, and it will show up. You'll think it's working, but if I import this one, let me see if it actually works or not. Let me see. I will show you the big difference here. Finish, says successful, and I don't think I'm going to see it because it's the same name. Yeah, it didn't take it. But you'll get a weird error saying that Windows cannot verify or validate or something like that. Now, with a successful import, you'll be able to pull up details, no errors in any of these screens. It literally tells you about it, what the issuer is. And it also will say issuer cannot be found if it's not imported correctly. This one says certificate is okay. So that means everything worked just fine. Now that we verify that the certificate is there, we should be able to get our Tailscale client connected. Now, one other thing I do want to point out is also the computer name. Now, if you notice in our previous connections when we were setting up the client, it would automatically grab whatever the host name is. Now, the thing about it, we don't really like the names that Windows comes up with automatically. Very funky names here. So you have this thing. No one's going to memorize that, right? Well, we could change the name. It'll force you to restart the computer and all that stuff like that. Or Tailscale thought ahead. The producer of Tailscale thought ahead of this. And what we could do now is we could pass it as an argument to the login portion. So we always got to do administrator when we're connecting a Tailscale client. And I'm just going to run the typical command tailscale up login -server https for mine headscale.bin.com, and then I'm going to do host name, and we're going to add in, I'm just going to do winNode-01, and that should work just fine. Enter, bam, we got this. If I take this here, now remember I'm removing the port number. I thought I updated this, but I guess I didn't update once again. So we take this, drop it into a browser. Let's put Edge. Okay, we'll take out the port at the end of this because we don't need the port number. There we go. All right, so it says this is what we have to put into our Headscale server. Now, for me, we could probably just copy and paste it. I'll probably just email it. Might be a little easier because I don't feel like doing SCP from Windows. I don't think I even have. Does PowerShell do SSH now? Let's see. Okay, SSH. All right, it's there. So actually, let's do an SCP. So we'll do an SCP to. I know I can go to this box. So I'll create a file. So let's just go ahead and do Notepad. I'll just do it on my actual desktop here. Notepad. Okay. We'll drop this little blurb here. Copy. Notepad. And then save. And in fact, I'll go ahead and change the username here so I can just directly paste it because we already know we're doing tester. Bam. And then now we do save. And we're going to just save this from my documents, desktop. Here we go, desktop. Put everything on the desktop. I don't know where the name came from. I forgot to change that. But anyway, it's now there on the desktop. Now if I go over to here, I should be able to do SCP. And let me go ahead and switch over. That did not work. Typed the wrong thing. Clear the screen. cd:/users tester desktop. Bam. ls. Alright, we do see the file there. We're going to do SCP tailscale. And we're going to send it over to. This is my user. Alright, and this should work just fine. It says one file is copied. Let's bounce over here. And now if I do ls, tail. Alright, so it did not go where I thought it was. So let's try this one more time. We'll go to the root directory, home, tacit. Alright, that looks like it's working a little better. Yes. Okay. I'm trying to type yes. Okay. Password. I don't know if anything's working. Alright, now it says it worked. Okay. Don't know what was up with that. Not typing on the screen. Bam. We do have it in there. And if I do cat this out, I can now copy and paste from this machine. So let me go clear this and do that one more time. I don't know why it does that funky. Let me make it a little bigger. Ugh, that's disgusting. Okay, see if I can get it though. Copy, and then we'll jump over into my Headscale. Let me find it. All right, here's the Headscale unit. We should be able to paste that in. It says it's now registered. Now if we do Headscale and we do nodes list, we now have the sandbox, which is my Ubuntu server we set up last time. We have the Win node. Now we're going to set, and we have the exit node as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the IP address before and after we do exit node setup. So what is my IP? Click there. Alright, so this is my current IP. That is accurate. course, I will have to block that out, cover it up a little bit for security reasons. And now if I go over to Headscale, it is now running. You see the little T in there. It says connected. Great. Go to exit nodes. It shows up as an advertised node, which you already know we're looking for is exit-node-01. I click that. All right. Now it shows a little arrow. So we're connected with an exit node. That's pretty cool. That little indicator. If I refresh the screen, nothing. Close. No thanks. Refresh. Bam. We now have a brand new IP address. There you have it. Now we're done. You have both the setup of, we have the setup of Headscale, setup of exit node, setup of the Ubuntu, and also setup of a Windows client using the exit node as well. All right, so all that done. That is everything I wanted to show. The next, I should say that the next video is going to be set up an Active Directory service running actually on Unix, well Linux in this case, Ubuntu, and that is all possible through Samba 4, and we're also going to do it in a secure manner using LDAP-S. So LDAP with the S on the end, LDAPs. All right, y'all, so tune in for the next video. Until then, have a great one, y'all. Continue your journey, and we'll do it again. Bye.